Hi and welcome to Gym and Kitchen. I'm your host, Shona. Gym and Kitchen's focus is on creating a healthy lifestyle, and I am passionate about educating and coaching real people with busy lives on all things health and wellness related, including the habits and beliefs that govern our food and fitness choices. And that's what this show is all about. You can find Gym and Kitchen on the web, Facebook, and Instagram at gymandkitchen.biz. Gym and Kitchen is produced bi-weekly and airs every second Thursday on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Now, let's get into this episode's topic. Today, I'm going to show you how to quickly and easily make some of my favorite healthy snacks. You can do them in the air fryer, you can do them in a dehydrator, or you can even do them in the oven. I'll talk a little bit about the differences in the ways you can make them later on in the episode. So why are having healthy snacks important? Okay, we all have days where you just want something crunchy and salty. I'm a sweets person. I don't keep sweets in the house, or very, very few of them in the house, for that exact reason, because otherwise, I'm not kidding, I will eat all of them. So I choose to keep them out of the house so that I don't make a bad nutritional choice. I know that a lot of people are the same way about chips. They see a bag of chips and they just want to eat the whole thing, and let's be honest, sometimes a bag of chips is exactly what you might be craving. Okay? And sometimes you just feel like you need a little crunch and a little salt. But store-bought options are both expensive, and even those that say they're healthy really aren't. They are often loaded with fats, sugars, yes for real, preservatives, and often way, way too much salt. Do you need salt? Yes. But a bag of chips is not a good way to get it. I started making mushroom chips before my first foray into the backcountry a couple of years ago, and I was hooked. They tasted good, they didn't leave me with a carb crash, and they could withstand a few days of being carried around in a Ziploc in my hiking bag. That then led me down a small rabbit hole as to what other kinds of chips I could make in my dehydrator. I tried many: yams, carrots, zucchini, eggplant, apples, bananas. I discovered that while yam and carrot chips tasted good, they took a long time to make and they were still chewy, which isn't really what I wanted in a chip. Now, apples and bananas also make really good chips, but again, they tend to be kind of chewy, and also dried fruits are really high in sugars. And unless you were spending hours doing endurance training or hiking up a mountain, for most people, I would advise options that won't spike your blood sugar the same way. The winners by far were zucchini chips, eggplant chips, and yes, for real, mushroom chips. So here's how you make them. The prep starts out the same way. You're going to make sure that you want to have them all washed off beforehand. Now what you're going to do is you're going to slice them as thin as you can, reasonably, without the vegetable falling apart. And obviously with mushrooms or any of these, you're going to cut off the ends that you can't eat. Okay, so that's not super thick, but it's not super thin, and I'm just doing this, again, as thinly as I reasonably can, and I'm just going to separate them all out, and I'm going to toss them into a little bowl. I'm going to put the mushrooms aside, and then I'm going to chop up the other ones now. I'm just going to cut up a few slices of both the zucchini and the eggplant for demo purposes so that I can show you how to make these, and I'm going to show you how to make them in an air fryer because it's quick and easy, and a lot of people have them these days. Okay, so now we've got a few here. Again, I'm just going to throw them in a little bowl for now. Finally, the eggplant. I'm going to cut off the gross end there. Now you can eat the skin on an eggplant, but it's not very good and it often gets really chewy. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to cut off a chunk of it and then I'm going to peel that chunk of the skin. And again, now I'm going to slice that nice and thin. Eggplant is pretty spongy if you've never worked with it before. You're going to want to be careful when you slice it. Okay, so now that my eggplant's all nice and sliced up, I'm going to throw that in a little bowl as well. Again, I'm going to come back to the mushrooms, but now what we want to do is prep these for cooking and give them a little bit of flavor. So I'm going to start with some oil. I've got some grapeseed oil, which is not as amazing as they used to tell us that it was, and I've also got some olive oil. So if you're unsure how much to use, start with about a tablespoon and add more if needed. I'm basically just going to eyeball this because I'm used to doing it, so I'm just going to pour a little bit in, and just enough to cover it, not enough for it to swim. Just a little bit in there, okay? And then you can shake that around, or I like to use a plate on top. Shake it up, and that should distribute the oil. Now, eggplant is a big sponge, and you're gonna find that it's gonna soak in the oil a bit more. So you might actually have to put more oil in with the eggplant so that you can coat the whole vegetable. Before I get on to the rest of it, I just want to throw in a little bit of information about oils, because there's a lot of information out there, and I want you to make sure that you're making a good decision on oils. Now, oil is not inherently bad for you, but you have to make sure that you're getting decent oils into your body, that you're not buying the cheapest stuff that you can find, and obviously that you're not using too much of it either. Some oils react really well to heat, and some react really, really badly to heat. So if you're doing dehydration or you're operating in a low heat oven below 300 degrees Fahrenheit, then you can use olive oil and it's just fine. If you're using an air fryer, it's going to be operating at a higher heat, probably close to 400 Fahrenheit. You are going to need an oil that can withstand a higher heat, something like an avocado oil or coconut oil. And please, for the love of all that is holy, don't use canola oil unless you can find the cold pressed kind. I'm not going to delve into that right now, but you can look that up for yourself on the internet. Canola oil is not inherently bad, but the way that it is processed takes away a lot of the nutrients from it. So if you're going to use canola oil, please use cold pressed. Now that we have some oil on our soon-to-be chips, we want to make sure that they get a little bit of flavor on them. So salt is a flavor enhancer, so we're going to use a little bit of salt to spice it up. Now, you don't need much. You literally just need enough for flavor. So we say to taste, we don't want it to lack flavor. I would say for an amount like this, I'm literally just going to use a pinch, but if you have more than that, start with a 1/4 teaspoon and then go from there. I am literally going to do a pinch, and here's how I'm going to find the pinch. I'm going to pour a little bit of salt into my palm. That's way more than I need right there. I'm literally going to take a 3-finger pinch. I'm going to sprinkle it over top. I'm maybe going to give just a little bit more to the zucchini, and then the rest of this I'm not going to keep. It's salt. It's going to go. Okay, once we've got the salt on, again, we're going to give these just a little toss to distribute that. Now I want to add some flavor. Most of these will taste largely like what you spice them with. Eggplant in particular is really, as I said before, just a big sponge, and it really will taste like whatever you spice it with. So my favorites are garlic powder and paprika, maybe a little bit of onion powder, and again, you're just going to coat it, not drown it. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of paprika and a little bit of garlic powder. Let's start with the garlic powder. And again, I'm not using too much because I don't have much here, so I'm literally just using like what's going to amount to about a pinch. I'm going to sprinkle some over top of that zucchini. That's going to feel like a lot, so I'm maybe just going to take a smidge more and then share it with the eggplant. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the paprika. Again, it's just a little bit. I don't even think I have a 1/4 teaspoon there right now. And then again, I'm going to shake it all up and coat it around. Okay, now at this point, if it doesn't coat, this is a great time to get in there with a spoon and see if you can distribute it. Sometimes the pieces will stick together because of the oil. That's fine. Remember, it's all just to taste. Another thing you could do if you wanted to is if you took a brush, you could brush and distribute the spices a little bit more evenly around all of these. Oops. Now let's talk about the mushrooms, because I've got this nice little bowl of mushrooms here. And one of the things that's really exciting for me about mushrooms is the first recipe I saw that involved mushrooms was salt and vinegar mushroom chips, and they were so freaking good. So you're going to need some vinegar, you're going to need some salt, you're going to need some oil to go with these mushrooms. So when you're dealing with oil and vinegar, and you're going to toss it over the mushroom chips like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the vinegar and the oil into a bowl and the salt, and I'm going to mix it all together here, and then I'm going to pour all of that over the soon-to-be mushroom chips, because I find that that way it actually distributes all of the flavors a little bit better in this case. So we're going to start with the vinegar. We're going to do 2 parts apple cider vinegar to 1 part regular vinegar. And then we're gonna add in just a little bit of oil so that things don't stick together. Okay, now I don't have a lot of mushrooms there, and I have a tablespoon here. It's probably gonna be a little bit too much, but you know, it's all right. Maybe they're just gonna be extra tangy. So I'm gonna pour 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And I promise, even if you don't like apple cider vinegar, just trust me on this one, it really does give you the flavor that you want. I'm then gonna pour 1 tablespoon of regular vinegar, and I'm gonna try not to make a giant mess pouring it. And then I'm gonna pour just a little bit of oil. So don't even fill this tablespoon, fill like just the bottom of it. We want about a teaspoon with this ratio. So about like that, and I'm gonna pour that in. And the oil's just gonna sit on top of the vinegar. And again, we're gonna want some salt to go with all of this. So again, I'm gonna pour a little bit into my hand and take a look. I'm probably gonna want a little bit more than a pinch. I might want 2 to 3 3-fingered pinches of salt. Largely, it's going to be to taste with whatever you like best, so that it's not too salty and so that it still has some flavor. Okay, and then I'm gonna stir all that together. Right now that that's prepped, I'm gonna toss it over the mushrooms and I'm gonna stir it all around so that the mushrooms are coated. And the mushrooms are much like eggplant, are a big sponge, so they're gonna soak up all the flavors really nicely, and I'm actually gonna let them sit for a few minutes. So I'm gonna let them sit while I show you what we're gonna do with the zucchini and the eggplant. Okay, so now that we have our zucchini and our eggplant prepped, we want to turn that into chips. Now I'm gonna use my air fryer to do it. Now you notice that I have a really teeny air fryer, okay? This thing's like, holds like a liter. That's okay. There's different sizes, there's different types. Some have multiple trays, some just have one. You can adjust based on what you have, and you can adjust how much you make based on what you have, okay? So what we're gonna do with one like this, where it just has the single layer, is I'm literally just gonna spread things in a single layer onto that air fryer basket. So we're gonna start with the zucchini. Okay, so it's gonna look like that. One of the things you wanna make sure of is that they're not overlapping each other, because otherwise they're not gonna get the air on either side, which is what they need to make the chips part. The same goes if you are using a dehydrator. So this is what my dehydrator looks like. It's a really, really basic model. I've got one more tray for it. It's simply a fan-based model. It's only got 1 heat. I would recommend, if you get a dehydrator, that you do get one that has an actual on-off fan. I've used the ones that are just a heat convection one, and it will take you 3 days to make anything in it. With one like this, it usually takes anywhere from 4 to 12 hours to make chips, depending on what food it is you're trying to dehydrate. I've been super happy with this one. I picked it up for like 20 bucks off of Marketplace, and I love it. I do all sorts of neat things with it. Now, you don't have to go all out and buy a dehydrator. You can buy an air fryer. Again, they're really popular, so that's why I'm going to show you how to make things in the air fryer. If you don't have either of those, you can also use the oven. Use a low heat at about 300 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe lower, a little bit lower, 275 if your oven will go that low. Just take a baking sheet, a cookie sheet, line it with some parchment paper so that things don't stick, right? And put it in there, and it's probably gonna take, for something like zucchini chips or mushroom chips, I would budget about 45 minutes to an hour in there, and you can always check and see. Of course, the amount of time that it's in the oven is going to depend on how thick whatever it is you're cooking is, and how much of it there is. If you have a smaller amount, it's going to cook more quickly than if you have a larger amount. Let's pop these in the air fryer and see what happens. I'm gonna stick these in, and we're gonna start with about 12 minutes, and I'm gonna take a peek and see how they look, and then if it needs more, then we'll come back. Okay, I do have it set on the vegetable setting, which is one of the highest heats, so it's at 395. Your air fryer might be different depending on what you have, but I would go with whichever one the air fryer says is for vegetables or potato chips. Okay, I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, they're done. Let's see how we did. It's gonna be hot when it comes out, and these are kind of stuck to the bottom, but they look pretty crispy to me. Let's check and find out. Okay, so they're still a little bit wiggly. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to flip them over. I'm actually going to put it back in the air fryer, and I'm going to dial the heat down just a little bit. We're going to try 5 more minutes and see if that gives us the crispiness that we want for these. Let's see how we did. Okay, so they look pretty crispy to me. I'm going to dump those out. Let them cool off, and we're going to rinse and repeat with the eggplant chips. So, same thing, you're going to want to take your eggplant chips, you're going to want to spread them along the bottom of the air fryer so that they don't overlap. And then we're going to stick them in the air fryer for, again, we're going to start with 10 minutes and see how that works. And if they need a little bit longer, then we'll put them in for a little bit longer. Once those are done, I'm going to come back, show you that they're done, and then I'm going to show you what to do with the mushroom chips. Okay, let's take a look at the eggplant chips. I did put them in for 5 extra minutes because it seems that 15 minutes is the right temperature for my air fryer. Yours might differ. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, they're pretty crispy, maybe a little over crisp. So you're gonna have to check with your air fryer. It might take a couple of tries to see how it goes, but that's the basic premise of it. And finally, the mushroom chips. So I've got this nice bowl of mushrooms that's been sitting and marinating now for quite some time. So I'm gonna spread a thin layer of those in the air fryer. We're gonna pop them in the air fryer, and again, we're gonna give them 12 to 15 minutes and see how they do. And I promise these are delicious. So let's see how we do with the air fryer. Okay, so now I have a nice layer of them in there. Now, full disclosure, when I make mushroom chips, I do them in my dehydrator and I make a whole big batch of them instead of just a little run of them. And that's my preferred method of doing it, but I want you to choose the one that works the best for you. So we're gonna pop these in and I'll see you in 10 to 15 minutes and we'll see how they look. Okay, mushroom chips are all done. Let's take a look. Okay, so they're a little less crispy than they come out when I do them in the dehydrator, but I bet you once they cool off, they're going to be just fine, and I guarantee they're going to taste equally as good no matter what. So, voila! Healthy chips. I hope you tried them out. I hope you love them. I hope that's a really helpful recipe for you to ensure that you have something healthy to snack on instead of just reaching for a bag of something that's super unhealthy and something that's not going to fill you up and that's just going to give you a sugar spike and then a sugar crash instead. So go make some healthy chips and tell me how you like them. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share this episode with a friend. Plus, remember to connect with Jim and Kitchen on the web, Instagram, and Facebook at jimandkitchen.biz. That's it. That's all. Again, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next episode.